Hello and welcome to Absolutely Nobody, to the very first episode of the Road to Freedom podcast. If you're listening to this, obviously we are recording it, but you are probably not listening to this until in the future when we have a few more episodes under our belt here. But we're excited that we're starting this podcast, and so I just want to introduce ourselves. My name is Patrick Studebaker.
My name's Matt Martin.
Yeah, and the reason for this podcast is we just loved sitting around talking about libertarian ideas and thought, we're two really normal guys, and sometimes people who claim to be normal might not be that normal, but I think if you look out on the landscape of the libertarian ideas that are popular and out there, sometimes the voices can be less than normal, which isn't always a bad thing, but we figured, hey, maybe we can add to the milieu of podcasts out there and talk as just two normal libertarian people who kind of don't have everything all set under their worldview, and two people that want to learn. And we figured, hey, maybe there are other people out there that don't know, why the drug war is entirely, immoral, and what exactly is the non-aggression principle, and what is Austrian economics, and is anarchy truly the way to go, or is minarchy the way to go? And so these are some of just the topics that we want to cover in this podcast here. And also, we want to look at it not from so much as a federal level, because there's definitely a ton of great podcasts out there that already look at kind of a macro libertarian idea. But we want to kind of focus on local, state, city, township, very small topics that we'll pull from our own lives, and that we can kind of share in what the libertarian mindset might be, and learn about how we can affect change on a local level. So some of the topics that we're going to cover are, again, local and state news items, local government intrusions. We have a topic today that we're kind of going to cover from our own hometown to kind of show a little bit of what we're going to discuss on a weekly basis. We figure we're going to do probably one a week. Not sure when we're going to release it. We don't even have a website yet, but that's all right. We're also looking at topical items. So again, stuff like, what is the true role of the police in a free society? Is there one? What's the role of trade? So we're not always looking at solely local topics, because we don't want to not talk about something if it's important. But we definitely want to cover how libertarian ideas can be applied from a local level, but also talk about them in the general. And we also figured we'd want to get interviews out there, and also look at famous libertarian books and kind of take a look at two normal people's understanding of what they might be. So we might have to go chapter by chapter. So obviously this podcast takes its name from Hyatt's Road to Serfdom, and so we figured we're on this journey, on this road to learning about more freedom, more liberty, and so we hope that you join us on this road to freedom. So let's just kind of talk about what we're talking about when we talk about a local level and different areas that we can cover here in this podcast. So we want to encourage local activism. We want to encourage local change, because you have things like a federal bureaucracy that just, if you call your congressman, what happens? You talk to a staffer, and your name gets put on a list with a against whatever platform or pro whatever platform. But at a local level, you're really more there. You have a voice, and really that's what it was intended for. That's why the states created the federal government. It's not why the federal government created the states, because that's not how it happened. And the states also created cities and townships and different types of charters and everything like that. But your one voice is more prevalently heard at a city board or a township board or wherever you might live. And so that's what we want to encourage. I don't know if I've necessarily done any huge changes in my life as far as trying to affect change, but I'm part of the local township planning commission here in the city where I live, in one of the townships, and that is probably antithetical to true libertarian ideas, but my goal when taking that position is to constantly just move the football towards freedom, and I try and do that in my role there. And so hopefully one day my role will be completely useless and people will be free to do what they want with their own property.
Amen.
How about you?
Me personally, I haven't really done much at a local level. other than voting. But
Voting. So you believe your voice should silence those of your fellow man because you vote and you want the tyranny over them.
no, absolutely not.
So yeah, that might be some of the things that we talk about is is voting the right way to go? Is the physical act of voting a form of tyranny, and should libertarians do it?
That's a good one to dive into.
Uh, so certain areas of the areas of topics we'll be choosing from, it can really be anything. We all have our local papers. We all see, the headlines, and we come from not really a big city as like the L.A. or Detroit or New York City, where you just come from how many people do you think are in our town? Probably 30,000 in the city area, and then outside
Yeah,
of that,
in the city, I'd say about that. I think what the whole county is maybe like 100,000.
yeah. Yeah. So, one out of 100,000, or here we have, one in 50,000 because there's two of us. Uh, but it's a greater chance to, again, affect change than one in 300 million, or one in how many ever your state has that your supposed elected officials are supposed to listen to. I'm not sure that's happening, but I can say from a more local level, it seems like the voice of a single person can be heard more and better and louder. And, when you have a group of uh, like-minded people, it's easier to affect change from that level. And whether or not people listen to libertarian ideas, that's another reason for starting this, because sometimes it's not always conveyed in the most gracious of manners, and so that's something that we want to look at. Nothing to say that being confrontational is wrong, because sometimes when someone's breathing down your neck and trying not to allow you to do what you want to do with your property, with your body, with your time, that can get pretty heated, and rightfully so. I will say this too, that we're also definitely not experts. This is not a podcast where you're coming to us with for all the answers. We're here to learn with you, and so we hope to grow with you as an audience. We hope to have interactions with you through various social medias, through email, and listening to this. Maybe you can interact with some of the things that we get wrong, which is great, because we're willing to learn as well. We're not, here to have a purity test of, who's, a true libertarian, who's not. Sometimes that delves into it, but at the same time, aren't there certain areas of lines that we can't cross in order to be called a libertarian? I think that's what we see in, sadly, today's larger libertarian party. You see the attempt to get people who are, for all intents and purposes, are almost Democrats who are trying to run for libertarian positions of leadership, and so maybe this will be an avenue where we can bring more people into the road to freedom and the road to liberty.
The next thing we're about to talk about here is the proposed event center in downtown Kalamazoo. It's a good example of like local things going on that we'll be talking about on this podcast. Right now, the general overview of it is there's a group of individuals trying to get an event center built on a few blocks in downtown Kalamazoo. Their main goal supposedly is bringing in, the younger millennial crowd downtown and bringing in business, but the only way they've even thought about financing it is with a 1% tax on all restaurants on their like food service for the next 30 years to pay for the $110 million project.
Yeah. So these people, they're just a group of already private wealthy people who don't want to spend their own money, but want to tax restaurants who already have a low clearance rate for profit, and they're also wanting to tax the people that come in to those areas. And this is a countywide tax for a single city park.
Yeah, which if you think about it, it's just crazy because, a restaurant out, on the northernmost part of the county is not going to see any business coming from the event center.
Yeah. Yeah, and the city of Kalamazoo is made up of something like 9 townships as well. So even if you went down to the local level, you're getting only city benefit from something, and you're taxing people from those outskirts, and you're hurting businesses, because anytime that you're taxing something, you're putting a barrier in the way of profit for people. And these aren't businesses. I mean, the McDonald's, the Burger Kings, the whatever chain restaurants, they can probably take the 1%, but those that are starting up their own restaurants that are small, that may have four booths but make really good hamburgers,
Yep.
their 1% is just it's going to hurt them, and it's going to hurt people who come in. And we've seen this in other areas of the country with the soda tax, like Seattle and New York, and people are going outside the area to find soda. So here you're going to dissuade people from coming in to be customers, could be consumers of restaurants that will not see any benefit to this downtown construction.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you think too of how somebody who might have thought about starting a restaurant or their own business in Kalamazoo somewhere, that they all of a sudden see, oh well, I've got to pay this 1% tax on something that I'm not even going to benefit off business, so they might take their business to another county.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't know what type of businesses you're already losing when making these proposals. I see that too from my position with planning and having these zoning ordinances, and you don't know what type of businesses you're losing next to, just because people want the government to be the ones to tell their neighbors what not to do. They don't want to be the ones that say, well, my the noise level for my neighbor is just insane, and I believe it's a hardship, so I'm going to sue them in civil court. If your rights are being violated, then by all means, sit down, arbitration, have a conversation. But no, it's so much easier to wield the might and power of the state, even if it's at a local level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the proposal here is for a 30-year bond issued for just to fund the construction of 110 million. So you have 30 years that you're going to be paying this 1% on a tax, plus that's assuming that event center can make a profit. So a 30-year bond is just for the construction, $110 million, 216,000 square foot event center that we kind of already have something like this in the town. There's already a couple places where you can hold events. They're trying to use this new one to say, oh well, the college in the area, Western, will come in and have their sporting events here, and there's a local hockey team that will come in, and here's all these concerts that will come in. But we already have those. Why? Why would we steal from restaurants and steal from people, and then if it doesn't make a profit, which notoriously these event centers that are government planned in places like Cincinnati and Cleveland, they don't turn a profit. They make big promises and then they fall on them, and you're already 110 million in the hole. So you have this gambler's paradox where you're like, well, I'm already 110 in. What's another 50 million?
Yeah, another interesting, it's a quote right out of one of the articles they have that literally says, the history in this country is municipal stadiums never pay for themselves. They're always a drag on the taxpayers. Quinn is their last name. I think it's one of the commissioners in the city. And they said unless they've got a better way of financing it than taxing everyone in the county, they won't be able to support it.
Yeah, I have a better idea. This is a group of entrepreneurs, of people that have come together as a group. What's the name of the group? It's Southwest Michigan First. It's a group of wealthy people that have made their money. It's a private organization that comes to suckle at the teat of the taxpayer and steal money from people. I mean, here's a better idea. Use your money, pull it together, have a trust, make a new business. If you think this will turn a profit, $110 million, you guys should come up with it. And there you go. If it's going to make a profit, if you know this, if you've done your due diligence, then you'll have a return on investment.
Yeah, and this group of people, in another article, it says that they haven't even looked into any other ways to make this revenue to fund the building. So they're only focusing on the 1% tax, and that's it. They haven't even dove into any other reasons of how they could get money.
Yeah. They haven't done their due diligence at all. I mean, reading these articles, they don't know if they can even buy the space that they're wanting to put the stadium on.
Yeah, because it's a 4-block space. One block is owned by Western Michigan University, and they are neutral on the whole topic, so we're not hearing anything of what they think about it. The other block is owned by the county, who wants to build a new courthouse, which they said in these articles that a courthouse is more important at the time. and then they're banking on just getting these two other blocks and using, hoping that they'll decide not to build a courthouse there, and using a city built parking ramp.
Yeah, yeah. I'm shocked too that the county thinks that the most important thing is their thing. Obviously, the downtown district of Kalamazoo definitely doesn't need any more businesses to come in. We definitely need a new fancy courthouse because ours is old and we can't use old things anymore.
Yeah, could just update the existing courthouse and you'd be fine.
Hmm. And you have people that are businesses that would uh, have this tax against them, and it seems like they're all for it. It's kind of what our downtown area needs, as one business person says. Another one talks about how he is sad that he has to drive 30 minutes away to come down to a different larger stadium in a different town, and I'm just thinking, you know, 40, 50 years ago, driving that would have been way longer. It would have been more expensive. And here he's complaining that he's just got to drive 30 minutes to go see, whatever country concert that's probably showing at a different town.
Yeah, it's crazy to complain about that because I mean, if you really think about it too, all these avid hockey fans, if we didn't have a local hockey team here, they would be driving up to Grand Rapids or Chicago or Detroit anyway to catch games.
Yeah, well, and if this were to make a profit, we'd already see it happening. Is putting all these things together, the college sports, the local teams, and then whatever supposed concerts are thought up in their heads. Is that really? I mean, why isn't that driving traffic already? Why aren't we already seeing that?
That's a good point. Like the biggest thing that catches me on this too is they keep saying, "Oh, we're gonna get people downtown with this new event center. You're gonna get the 18 to 35-year-olds." And one professor who was also commissioner was saying that, you know, you get the college kids don't really have a reason to come downtown. I mean, if you say that, the only kids that don't have a reason to come downtown are the 18 to 20-year-olds, because once
Yeah,
they hit 21, they're coming downtown to go to the restaurants and go to the bars anyway.
yeah.
So what
Well,
kind of events are actually coming in that they're planning? Like that they have no examples of anything that they could bring in.
yeah, and on a consistent basis too. I mean, hockey ends at a certain time, the college sports end at a certain time. What are you bringing in on a consistent basis where you're, paying back a 30-year bond for $110 million, and and that's just construction costs. What else has to be supplanted from other unknown locations? Like, what are the charges going to be? Are you assuming that you're going to be able to, pay, I don't know, Coolio $100 million or $100,000? Probably it's not 1993 anymore. $100,000
Yeah.
to come in and do a concert, and how often? I mean, what, there are so many things here that show that they have no clue what the broad picture is, other than to say, oh well, it'd be kind of nice. And I really hate going to Grand Rapids because it's such a drive, and the people that are going to benefit are going to be the restaurants and the bars that are in walking distances of this area. No one else is going to benefit from it.
Yeah, and I know in one article they say that they could have some of the Western sports teams play there, but another thing about that is, I mean, the only indoor sports really that they have is basketball and hockey. And basketball, they already have a nice area. Hockey, they have their own rink. So why would Western want to have their sports be played at a city-owned property when, and then they're going to have to split profits for ticket sales and all that stuff and concessions with somebody else when they could just update the existing buildings they have and keep the money that they want to for that.
Yeah, well, and not everyone has the ability to drive from the campus area to downtown. I mean, especially with the parking pass rates that are uh, levied against the college students. I mean, they're getting a crowd because it's easy to walk from a central location just on campus, from campus to campus. But here you're going from campus to downtown. It's close to a bad neighborhood. It's next to certain areas that have transient people. I mean, all these things. It's going to be like when they attempted to open up the downtown movie theater. Within the first week, you had two old people that ended up getting violently assaulted, and then the police ended up moving one of their action stations right underneath the parking ramp to the theater.
Yeah.
Another thing that I saw here is this I guess he's a bar owner, a business owner, said that He's worried about competition to his business from what would be a publicly funded event center. He said it's a red flag if the event center is expected to lose money and needs more taxpayer support. He also noted that countywide tax may be problematic for some people, and residents in out county areas, which is what we talked about. And they might wonder why they're being taxed for something that may only benefit a small area of downtown Kalamazoo. But here's the thing: so the event center is going to have probably alcohol. It's probably going to have an event type. You're taxing people who are in direct competition with this stadium to then pay for the stadium to come about. I mean, that seems almost insanely immoral. Your executioner coming to you and forcing you to load the bullets in the gun before it's fired at you, and it just seems ridiculous to me that the people who would be in direct competition are the ones that have to be forced to pay the big government for it.
Yeah, because I can think of right off the top of my head, there's 3 bars downtown Kalamazoo that have their own sort of concert venue. So yeah, the event center would be a lot larger, but a lot of these bands could draw a crowd at both. They could draw a crowd at an event center, or they could draw a crowd at, the more intimate, smaller venues. So you're going to tax these people and then potentially take the bands away from them because they are going to have a chance to play at a larger venue and make more money for themselves.
Yeah, theoretically, and I'm sure there's probably an entry cost to you have to guarantee so many ticket sales in order for us to host you. So if we kind of live in millennial, what am I trying to say? People who wear weird clothing and visit Bell's Brewery.
Oh,
hipster types. Yeah. So, the Decemberists might come and be able to fill that stadium, but, the up-and-coming Decemberists might not be able to, and might not be able to afford then the cost of the increase for the place that they were going to play, assuming that it's still open.
Yeah.
There's another article that I like that this Southwest Michigan First figured that they weren't getting the young voice, so they it sounded like what happened was a group of what they call millennials, the next generation in quotes, were picked, and they're under 35, and they really care about this. They're willing to care and put in the time. And looking at these people, all these people work for companies who, in some way, shape, or form, would either benefit directly from this, not the people themselves, but their companies, or who have members on this Southwest Michigan First group. So it's really disingenuous to say, well, here we have, the kids of the neighborhood, and they're all for this, and let's talk about it. And it's just sad that they're trying to pull this in as well.
Yeah, and all the companies that these young below 35-year-olds are part of are large companies that, if they were to pool together their money, if they really cared about an event center so much, could, if not, they could probably come up with $110 million, but at the very least come up with a big chunk of it. So it's like they're not even offering to throw in any of their money. So do you really care that much if you're working for a business that you're not even going to try to find other ways than just taxing people that aren't going to benefit off of this?
Right. Yeah. Why take out a 30-year loan with these millionaires and billionaires? I feel like Bernie Sanders, these millionaires on these billionaires. Why go to the bank, who would probably guarantee you a loan, to then have the taxpayers do a 30-year bond with rates that are below market value, because it's guaranteed by the state to come in, and it's easier to have other people pay for your business schemes. And the idea isn't that these people are being entirely shifty. I'm sure some of these people who own businesses that can get events into the new arena, or have an updated building for some of their outdated buildings, are probably being a little bit they have a vested interest in it. But honestly, some of these people might just have good intentions. But what you're doing when you're asking people to have a tax is you're asking other people, and it's not even asking, you're taking from other people to do what you want. And that's immoral. If I were to come in to a restaurant and hold a gun and tell them, hey, give me all your money, we would call that theft. So why here is it different when it's, oh, it's a tax, we all voted on it. What if I have 10 people that show up with me to rob this restaurant, and we all agree that the 5 people in the restaurant should give us all their money? Well, we voted, we took a vote. It's completely legal. It's moral that way, right? What if running outside of the building right before I do it, I say, well, I'm the government, and I just can claim it. Like, why is it stated as fact?
It's obviously okay if it's the government, obviously.
Well, yeah. I mean, clearly, it's the price we pay to live in a civilized society. Well, you know what? In a civilized society, we don't take things that don't belong to us. I mean, it's what I teach my 2-year-old to not do. I mean, there's sharing, but sharing implies ownership, and sharing implies the ability to say no as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest thing is they don't want to pay for it themselves, but they're the ones that think it. The article that came out like 3 days ago, it interviews all the city commissioners they could get. They couldn't get all of them, but every single one, it seemed like there was maybe 1 or 2 that said it's more of a wait and see kind of thing. But all the other ones they interviewed were saying that their constituents are not for this. One of them even said 95% of their constituents are not for it. So like, you obviously do not have the people behind you. So this company is really probably the only ones that want this event center. So they're the ones that want it. They should have to be the ones that pay for it.
I mean, it just seems so odd to me with all the construction going up that they believe that this is the thing that will really pull it through. I mean, yeah, okay, you don't have to tax the stadium like you do other businesses because it would be a city-owned stadium, assumingly. I mean, there's also the possibility that the city could find themselves, too big in the hole and then sell the stadium for, pennies on the dollar to a private company. Well, what does that mean? What does that in 30 years look like when people have been done paying for $110 million construction, where the construction's probably done in a year or 2, and they're still paying it off in 28 years? And, the people that move into the city then incur that cost. I mean, they haven't, if you want to go the whole might makes right, the consent, the people that are moving in haven't consented to that tax. You could make the claim that they consented by moving into the area, but you're stealing from, again, future generations and from businesses themselves, and businesses in direct competition with the stadium.
Yeah. It's funny too because the numbers, they always, downtown Kalamazoo is terrible with parking already, so they're bringing in
awful
an 8,000 seat for sporting, or wait, no, yeah, 6,000 seating capacity for sporting events and an extra 2,000 for live events. So you have a concert, you could fit 8,000 people in there, and they want to build a 600 space parking ramp. Mm-hmm. That's gonna, I mean, unless people are showing up, 5 to a car every time, you're able to get like the very small portion of everyone parking in there, and three quarters of the other people have to just park downtown. I mean, they're going to have to walk 8 blocks anyway to get to the concert.
Well, and what they're saying too is that they want to help share the parking structure with the county. So it's the state wanting to share with a different municipality that probably won't want to share with them.
Yeah, and since it's a county built parking ramp, there's already the administration building in the next block. So I mean, you're going to have people that park there. You're going to have county employees that are going to be parking in that. You're going to have people who are just parking in it and maybe not even going to the event at the event center, but just downtown anyway. So you might only be able to fit 100 cars from that event. And now what are you going to do with the 800 other cars that are coming to this event?
Yeah. Well, if you use other people's money, there's no risk to you. So you don't have to think about these logistical things. You just have to hope that you convince the people to put the bond on the voting sheet, and hope that you have enough suckers who want. And it's really not even their money; it's the restaurant's money. I mean, this isn't going to be a direct tax. This isn't going to be a bill that says, will you agree to a 1% tax of your money to pay for the stadium? No, absolutely not. But it's going to be, hey, will you be okay if the state takes funds from restaurants that you probably don't have a vested interest in to fund this? And it's like, well, it's not my money, and all business people are, evil rich people who, just want to light their cigars with $100 bills and hate their workers. So of course I'm okay with, the people getting their money back.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize too, though, that it could end up falling back on them eventually, because you're gonna. If I were a business owner and I'm forced to pay a 1% tax on my items now, then I would raise my own prices so it doesn't affect me, or hopefully doesn't affect me as much. So in turn,
Right.
the people are in a way getting taxed themselves, because now the price, the burger at their favorite place now has to go up $1 or 2.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and costs are going to be incurred from production costs of the food and everything on the line up and down. It's not just going to be, oh, this is simple. We'll take 1% out, and you're going to have government jobs that get created to collect these taxes, to figure out if the restaurants are hiding their money to not pay this. I mean, there's bureaucracy that breeds bureaucracy here. It's not so simple. And what I don't understand, and this probably just a limited understanding of what it means to have the amount of money that people do. If all these people have made their money privately that are part of this group, I mean, why are they so adamant of pushing, a not private way to fund this, to make this? Like you said, there's, how many people on this board? Like 30 people that are, the millionaires, the billionaires. You can't put aside 10% of your own funds to guarantee what is a sure thing. Because if you're not willing to do that with your money, why are you willing to do it with other people's money? Why are you allowing people to come in with the threat of violence if people don't pay to come in? I mean, we've seen this with other things. We've seen it with phone use. I mean, we were still paying, the World War One off in the 90s on some of our phone taxes.
I think the biggest thing is they know deep down that that a city owned is the best for them, because an event center like this, if it does turn a profit, it's going to take a very long time to turn a profit, and it may never turn a profit. Yeah.
Right.
Because look at the current.
In most of the other places that I've seen, there hasn't been. It's always been a boondoggle. It's always been people were great on the outset, and then it didn't do as well, or there's a recession or something along those lines. And yeah, the state can take the hit more, because all you're going to do is say, well, we have to fund it with other taxpayer funded money, and so they'll rearrange a few things and make sure that the stadium stays open, because you just can't let 110 million plus whatever else we steal go to waste. I mean, you constantly have to pour oil on the fire.
Yeah, and I just had a thought. Like, I don't know the numbers, because I don't know if Western would really want them to be known. But for instance, their football stadium, they sell out sometimes, and they sell a lot of tickets for their football games. I would say those are probably the most highly attended sports we have around here. But you got to think about it. Is the revenue coming in from their ticket sales even really paying for the stadium itself? Because just by going to Western and paying your tuition and fees, you're already paying for some of the sports teams and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to see if a place like Waldo Stadium is even turning a profit, or if they're staying afloat because of tuition and fees.
Yeah, well, and Western has bought up so much property around themselves that to have people come in and build businesses, it's you have to go to a state entity in order to ask permission to buy land from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's another thing with hockey happening at the same time each year for both the college and the local teams. How is the logistics of that happening? Are there going to be two levels of rinks? Are people there to see the Western team and the local team?
Yeah, because the area they're thinking about building, they don't have enough room to build extra extra ice surfaces. So theoretically, you'd have to get Western to first sell off their portion of the land they own where they want to build this stuff, or get into some sort of agreement, and then they would have to also keep their old stadium on the campus to use as practice facility too. And same thing with the Kalamazoo Wings. They probably have to keep at least one of their places to practice, and then only play games there. And then there's been plenty of times throughout the season that they both have home games at the same time. It would just create a lot of chaotic scheduling too.
Yeah, it's almost like these people just have an idea and they're wanting to resort to violence first in order to to do what they think is the right course of action, but don't want to think of the logistics or have a good business plan, because let other people pay for it. It's fine.
Yeah, and it's I forgot where I was going with that one. Oh well.
All right, anything else on this?
I had something, but I lost it.
Oh man, that's all right. We'll do it in post. It's fine. We'll do it live.
Yeah, we'll do it live.
All right. Well, I think that's probably it for today. I hope you can see that this arena situation has some good fodder for, again, applying what we as libertarians tend to look at from a macro level and applying it from a local level. Here we talk about taxes and the non-aggression principle, which the non-aggression principle is the subject for our next 2 episodes, and it's really about why does the government have the power to inflict violence, to engage in theft, and that's what it is. That's what any normal, if you and I were to do it, that's what it would be called. So why do they have the right to do it when no one else does? It's a violation of morality. It's a violation of established law, and it's just people who are coming in saying, it's okay. I'm here with the government. I'm here to help, which are, as we know, some of the most scariest words known to man.
Yeah.
And they have been that way for thousands of years. So yeah. So what would we suggest doing here? Obviously there are already people that are against it, but here you have the ability to make phone calls to your local leaders. You have the ability to make calls to. You might not live in the city, but you can still talk to people about this that would have the ability to affect you, and talk about how this would be the restaurants almost literally eating themselves food pun joke. That would steal from themselves to then steal competition away from them as well. And then on top of that, you have the ability to go to your local body of government. Like I have the ability to go to my local township, and they can have a resolution to say we don't support this, and you have a bigger voice to get out there and let other people know exactly what this means. You can use the platform, and sadly that might mean a little bit of time, but if you're not willing to put in the time, you're just kind of an armchair libertarian who wants to rally at the big government man. But at least go to Twitter every time that a news article is posted by the local news or Facebook, and just keep going in comments about how this is ill-planned. It's not planned to have a moral backing, that it constitutes as theft, and just all the things that we talked about, all these problems that come about when you're not putting your own money. If someone wanted to come in and build this building and it fails, no one would say, well, at least we're not that the people should continue to pour money into it. You go, oh, well, it didn't work out. They should sell it off, and the resources should be used for other various means. All right. So next episodes that you'll be listening to are kind of more general topics. It's kind of the crux of the whole libertarian position, just the non-aggression principle, and we'll go kind of into the background of it, what it means, what are the implications, and then the episode after that, episode 3, we'll do applications to kind of some broader elements. So thank you for joining us for this very first episode of the Road to Freedom podcast, and I hope you join us on that road to liberty and freedom.
See you next time.